Well, good morning, everyone. It's a great day here in the city of Richmond. And
Are you ready?
yes, sorry, I got here.
May I?
Okay, can you get over? Yeah. Almost forgot our ASL interpreter here today. Well, it's another great day here in the city of Richmond. As you may know, the administration is required to submit a biennial report on the city's real estate holdings and potential uses for those city-owned properties. This plan will be made available to Richmond City Council by October 1st. And I'm happy to say that while the issuance of this plan is standard, this year it has been intentionally designed to increase accessibility to affordable housing and promote affordable home ownership in the city of Richmond. 66 parcels are represented on this map right here. The plan recommends three main paths for these city-owned parcels. First, some parcels will be conveyed to the Maggie Walker Community Land Trust for affordable home ownership. That would include 32 parcels. The second pathway will convey these parcels to nonprofit organizations to develop affordable multifamily rental units. That's 21 parcels. And the third path will convey parcels to developers through competitive RFPs, requests for proposals. These are high-value properties, high-value parcels, and that will include 13 parcels. We propose the majority of the parcels, that's 80%, be conveyed to the Maggie Walker Land Trust and nonprofit affordable housing developers to increase the affordable housing stock in the city of Richmond for the people who need it the most. We propose 32 parcels to go to the land trust, as I stated earlier. Let me tell you why, though. Since the year 2000, black home ownership in the city of Richmond has declined by 30%. 30%, while white home ownership has increased by 150%. So what does that mean? We all know that limiting home ownership opportunities means limiting wealth building opportunities, limiting the capacity for upward mobility and economic empowerment. With our proposed conveyance to the land trust, we plan to reverse that downward trend. We propose 21 parcels to go to our nonprofit affordable housing developers, because the simple truth is, to make housing affordable, you have to make the development of that housing affordable as well. Forcing nonprofit developers to pay market rate for good land increases costs of them and makes it much more challenging to serve lower income residents. In short, I'm proposing we use the assets of the city at its disposal, city-owned parcels of land to help offset that cost for our partners in the affordable housing arena. And for the third category, we plan on selling highly valued properties using a competitive RFP process. These sales will result in an immediate cash infusion of CIP funds. And these high-value properties are those who are centered around downtown, those in the greater Scott's Addition area, places like the Fulton Gas Works properties. These are what we consider high-value properties. However, the plan is very clear. Any large-scale mixed-use and mixed-income developments on these parcels should establish a commitment to affordable housing in their community benefits agreements. Now, this administration is dedicated to exhausting all of our resources, examples, and ideas at our disposal to meet our demand for affordable housing stock, quality, and diversity. I think the report from the partnership stated that we need to create 10,000 affordable housing units by 2030. That's exactly why I hired Sharon Ebert as a Deputy Chief Administrative Officer for Economic Development. She's a proven change agent, a change maker over here at City Hall. She's a mover and shaker, and she's leading our economic development and affordable housing teams for the past year on a mission of equity in development and in placemaking. Thank you, Sharon. 1 year ago, the team started working on the Equitable Affordable Housing Plan you'll see presented to council this evening. And soon after, we started exploring earmarking funds for the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, an invaluable resource for which I have tripled the funding during my term. This work would not have been possible without the collaboration of many housing experts and advocates who helped inform this plan and this approach. Still, there is so much room to grow, and the team is dedicated to that equitable growth. The city has 800 parcels of land in our arsenal, and thousands of properties around the city are in blight. We should not be sitting on these properties when they could be put to better use for those who need it the most. And that is why, with the leadership of Sharon that she's provided, we are working on streamlining the process of safely and responsibly make these assets work for the residents of our great city. We intentionally designed this real estate plan to increase affordable housing development, facilitate Black and brown home ownership through the land trust, and provide a much-needed stimulus to kick in the city's CIP funds. We need an economic stimulus. We cannot expect that the federal government will continue to pour dollars through this most critical time into our coffers. And I believe the real estate that the city owns can act as that stimulus, but not for a select percentage of our population, which has been the case for some time over the course of the last 20 years as the city has grown. We need a stimulus for families who need it the most. And that's why this affordable housing plan, this equitable affordable housing plan, can be that stimulus, can be the catalyst for not only economic empowerment, but also for secure housing for the least of these in our community. This is what intentionality weaving equity into the fabric of governance looks like. Even the most standard of procedures, simply a biennial plan to the city council, can become an exercise in innovation. In the coming weeks, my administration will introduce legislation to move forward with elements of this plan. And I'm proud of the work my administration and I'm proud of the work of my administration, and I'm excited about the future that the intentional efforts like this can bring to our great city. So with that, we'll take some questions.
What period of time are you proposing that these parcels be conveyed to the land trust and the nonprofit developers?
We're going to be, the question was, what's the period of time we're going to be conveying these parcels to the land trust and to developers? Well, we want to move as quickly as possible. When we talk about an economic stimulus, we talk about the fact that we are in a recession right now. A recession I think we all foresaw, and that's why we moved forward with, I thought, equitable development in the last year to insulate us through this recession. And so we're going to be working as quickly as possible with the city council to move these papers. This is not something that should be continued on and on. The can can't be kicked down the road. We need an economic stimulus as a city today. And so, Sharon, you may have a more defined timeline, but I'm saying as expeditiously as possible. You want to add anything, Sharon?
Sure. I would just say, again, Sharon Ebert, Deputy Chief Administrative Officer. Today, we're going to obviously present the plan. We will then follow it up with a resolution asking council to approve and adopt the plan. Once that happens, we can then simultaneously submit an ordinance that allows us to convey at nominal cost to the Maggie Walker Community Land Trust. So we hope that first category can happen hopefully before the end of this calendar year.
A follow, on the category pertaining to nonprofit developers, not the land trust, I understand how that process works, but how are you going to determine which of the nonprofit developers gets which parcel of land? Is it going to be like an RFQ type process?
There will be an RFQ/RFP process to do that, yes, sir.
Do you guys have any information on like how this stacks up to the proposals in years past? I know you mentioned this happens every single year, but as far as the amount of properties, I think you said 83 if my memory serves correctly.
66?
86, there you go, sorry.
66.
66, excuse me, okay.
There was a proposal it started back in 2017. It's the way that the ordinance is written, it's every even year. So in 2018, the plan was, it's my understanding, provided, but no action was taken. And there were maybe 18 parcels at that time.
Okay. For those of us who have been here for a little bit, I know this has kind of already begun happening in certain neighborhoods around the city. Can you talk about some of maybe the successes you've seen in those areas, turning it over to the nonprofits, turning it over to land trusts to make sure that these homes actually happen and are available?
So the process of having the Maggie Walker Community Land Trust is currently they are getting these through tax delinquent sales, not through surplusing. So I just want to make that distinction.
That's an important distinction. Thank you very much. And Mayor, do you have maybe any information on, I know the properties haven't sold yet, but is there an estimate on how much you guys are expecting to get from the specific ones you're selling to private industry? Or,
I can only tell you, and you can only look up the tax records and sale records of what property in Scott's Addition are going for. You'll see in Category 3, it's the properties along Boulevard and Hermitage. The city owns over 60 acres there. We know that's prime real estate. So we are expecting to get quite a significant response to those acreage when an RFP will be issued. That probably will not be issued until sometime early next year. But there is, again, prime real estate here in the city under Category 3. We're hoping to do quite well with that.
Looking at that map, it looks like most of the city-owned land itself isn't in necessarily the highest opportunity neighborhoods. Mr. Mayor, what is your administration going to do to make sure that this affordable housing is being built in, say, like the West End, for example?
Well, you know that, the question was, how do we ensure that these properties are built in other parts of the city, not just in, the East End and South Side and, formerly red line neighborhoods as well. Sharon just whispered in my ear, inclusionary zoning, which is something that we would need. That's why I chuckled. Something we would need help from the General Assembly on. I think that's a tool for the toolbox in terms of building affordable housing in all parts of our community, right? The East End and South Richmond cannot bear the brunt of just affordable housing in our city. We have to do it in North Side. We have to do it in parts of the West End. One thing that I've held, it wasn't an enlightening moment, but it stuck with me. I was out pitching that bold budget I had about affordable housing, how much money we were going to pump into the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, and a resident stood at Mary Mumford School, elementary school, and when we were talking about, they were going through the rezoning process, right? And this resident stood up and said to me, Mr. Mayor, we force our children to do what we are unwilling to do, right? We say that we're for diversity, that we're for inclusion, we're for being more welcoming, but we make our children do the hard work, right? And we all know that our schools are better because they are diverse, when they are diverse, right? He said, however, we don't do the tough work as residents and making our communities more diverse. And so I committed to him on that day that I will continue to be a champion for more affordable housing in all parts of our city. This can't be a burden only borne borne by those who live in the East End and those who live in South Side. It has to be throughout our city. And so that means working on inclusionary zoning, reforming our zoning ordinance in the city as well, so we can actually see more density in all parts of our city, not just in the East End and not just in Manchester. We can see density throughout. And we know that when we densify as a city and as we grow, it creates more opportunities for affordable housing. And that has to occur everywhere. Everywhere.
A little bit off topic, if you don't mind.
Sure.
There was unfortunately two homicides yesterday in the city's East End, same block. We've had several different homicides over the course of the past couple of weeks. I just wondered your comments on that. A situation we've seen before in the city.
Yeah.
Continue to see. Just your thoughts.
Yeah, the question was about, we saw a homicide, two homicides on the same block in the East End within the last 24 hours, I believe. Yep. Mm-hmm. And obviously, the Richmond Police Department did inform me of these deaths. Obviously, my heart goes out to the families of the victims. Although overall crime in the city is down, that is of no comfort to anyone who is experiencing frequent gun violence in their community. And the Richmond Police Department has begun the investigation. What we have been seeing throughout the city is just retaliation after retaliation. And that unfortunately is a result that results in death. So I'm going to let the Richmond Police Department do their job. But my request of the community, though, is that if you know something about this, if you've seen something on social media, if you saw something in person, that you come forward to the Richmond Police Department and give us as much information as possible to stop this retaliation that may have occurred.
Final question regarding the housing redevelopment.
We're good.
We're good?
Yeah.
Any other questions? Thank you, everyone.